The following podcast is scheduled for one recording with no time limit. Making their way down to somewhere in the ring, Andrew Sanford and Ryan Sprague.
Somewhere in the ring. I am Andrew Sanford, joined by my co-host Ryan Sprague, and this is a podcast where we usually talk about pro wrestling. We've gotten to do. What's kind of funny is we came off of a horror movie month, and I could not let it go.
You couldn't. You just could not.
So now we're going to keep it going a little bit more.
Yeah,
we'll talk about wrestling. We'll talk about AEW. We'll talk about WWE. We will. I'm throwing it out there again. We will do a New Japan episode at some point. It's going to happen. Defy Wrestling. We talked about wrestling today. We're going to talk some wrestling, and we're going to talk some horror movies again because we're joined by my good friend Logan Riley Bruner, star of the new film All You Need Is Blood. Logan,
Andrew, Ryan,
hi, bud. Welcome to the show.
Of course, man. Welcome somewhere in the ring. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is honestly awesome. Me and Andrew bonded originally over our love of wrestling and acting, so to be able to bridge the world, so cool. It feels great.
I would love to know, what is the connection between you guys? If you're willing to share, are you long lost
Logan?
brothers?
Do you mind? May I embarrass you just a little, Logan?
Please.
So Logan and I were working a day job together, as working artists often do.
Woo!
And I remember the first time I met Logan, he walked up to me, and I was at my bar, and we were just chatting because he's a lovely individual. And I was like, I ask what I always ask people at these kind of day jobs, which is, what do you do outside of this place? And Logan said, I'm an actor. And I was like, oh, okay. That's not
a lot of people say that.
Quite a few. And then I was like, oh, cool. What do you got? Anything coming up? And he's like, oh, I'm actually I just filmed a part on Stranger Things. And I was like, oh, very cool, man. That's really rad. And I remember it just kind of, we left it at that. And then we became friends aside from that. And I think it was months later that season 4 started coming out, and I got to see Logan on Stranger Things. And I say this with no exaggeration that I found a new favorite actor once I started watching those episodes. Logan is such a present and giving actor, and and I enjoyed Logan's performance so much that I wrote a short film specifically for him because I wanted the chance to work with him. I remember sitting there thinking, I want to work with this incredible actor. Wow. And I would come to learn he's been doing it for quite some time. That is stuff where I think you would need to fill in some blanks for us, but that's how Logan and I met. Yeah. We have worked together. I have acted in something that Logan has directed, so we've gotten to act alongside each other as well, which was really fun. So fun. So Logan, when did your actor's journey start? Do you remember what the earliest role you had was?
Okay, so the earliest role I had is, I don't count it as my start. I was 3. Awesome. And my dad was directing this straight to TV movie called One Day in May. Well, he did directing for a little while and then stopped and is now trying to get back into it. But he was directing this movie, and I played a character named the Mystery Child. And my part was, I walked up to this woman and I whispered in her ear, "He's the one." And that was my big entry into acting.
Under five.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then my parents, they don't have to pay you that extra, a couple $100, right?
Yeah. I mean, I clearly got compensated as a 3-year-old who was working for his father. But then my parents did theater for a while, and they were wonderful because they were like, we don't want to be stage parents, so they didn't push me into it. They were very much like, go live your life, figure out what you want to do. I thought for a while I wanted to play sports, which, if you know my height and or weight, does not make a ton of sense. And then this theater company called Rosie's Broadway Kids at the time, now it's Rosie's Theater Kids. It's Rosie O'Donnell's theater collective. Came to my elementary school, and as my mom describes it, I came home singing and dancing. And from then on, I was like, I love this thing. I want to do this thing. She had to reconcile with the fact that I was also going to enter the acting industry, which was something that she was stressed about. But then I started just doing youth theater. And I was doing this show called Botch with a company called Tada, which is another youth theater company. And this woman, I was playing this really small part. I was the third rat basically. There were 4 rats and I was
Yeah,
the
you were.
third. And this woman contacted my director and was like, I'm a manager, I represent young artists, and I would love to meet Logan. And my mom actually said to my director, she knows Logan played the 3rd rat, right? She doesn't think he was one of the other rats and just got confused. And no, she didn't. She thought that I was really cool, and we started working together, and I started doing musicals. And then from there, I started doing just like straight theater. And then I got into film and TV when I was like 17, 16-ish. And from there, I just kept doing and building and creating. I went to college for arts management and screenwriting because I wanted to kind of expand the palette a little bit. And then when I graduated, some things happened and acting went on pause for a while for the entire world. And then,
I wonder what that was.
I got really lucky. Actually, right before some things ended in December of 2019, October of 2019, I got an audition for Stranger Things, which was my second audition for them. I found out in December that I had booked it, and I was super excited. And they were like, cool, very excited you're confirmed. We're going to start shooting March 2020. So just be ready, and we're going to fly you out to Atlanta. And then 2 days before I left, they were like, there's this thing. We're going to take a pause for like a week, but we don't really see it lasting longer than that. So we'll see you like next month. And I was like, cool, great. And then 8 months later, I was very blessed and lucky to still keep my part. It would have been so easy for them to turn that into a local Georgia hire, but they decided to keep me around, and they brought me in, and that happened, and it was really incredible. It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And then All You Need Is Blood came up, which is the new movie that I just did, and that was just an incredible experience. And I've been just kind of bouncing since then.
I didn't realize that you and I had such a similar experience with. I was cast in a pilot that was supposed to shoot March 26th, 2020. That was, and coincidentally enough, that did end up because a year from March 26th, 2020, my children were born. So there was a weird kind of like synergy there. But it was, I had this similar kind of thing where I had a casting agent emailing me the Friday before being like, it's probably going to happen. Like, we'll keep you posted. And then I just never heard from them again. So that's where our stories differentiate. Is the show I was supposed to be on just did not get made. Stranger Things was going to get made regardless. But also, it's not like you were just like in an episode. You have a whole arc. You get a really rad death. Spoilers
I'll show
because
like, I have a slightly messy room, but I have a poster.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Ooh, let me zoom in on that.
I
missed it. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I will say, man, you had probably the gnarliest death in the show.
So cool.
It's real good.
I just remember like seeing it for the first time and just like rearing back on my couch. I was like, oh my God, that poor kid.
And that's like someone with a fear of heights. Like, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do the thing. That's fine. And then I got out to the road where we're filming it. And I'm like, oh man, I've got to do the thing now.
So how did that go? Was it like a harness situation or?
And Ryan, this was literally, I watched the episodes and I went to work like the next day and was like, were those zombies there? How did you do this? Did you get to see is the Vecna suit real? Is there? I just started peppering him with production questions.
Yes, it was this. We did this.
By the way, I have so many about All You Need Is Blood too.
Please. And there's actually, we'll talk more about it later, but it's kind of cool because the VFX people and group that did a bunch of the stuff for Blood is the same group that does the Wyatt Six and did Ray's stuff before he passed away. So that was a really cool connection to see all of that stuff. And so when I found out that we were going to do the podcast, I was like, this is going to be so cool to talk about because like they have that literal connection. I see my buddy Kyle, who worked on All You Need Is Blood, will post like Wyatt Six, more masks made by us, more stuff that we did. And I'm
That's
like, this is
cool.
just so sick. It's so cool to see.
The connections that we have made, Andrew, through this podcast with like people in all walks of life, not just a wrestling Logan, but like we also, Andrew and I have worked with another actor from Stranger Things who played the mother of, oh my gosh, her name's escaping me, the redhead.
Max's mom.
Max's mom.
Max's mom. Yep.
We
yeah.
worked
Ryan
on
and I
a
have both.
television show with her. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's a small world. It's
Yeah.
so strange.
Truly.
Now, I also, Logan, I want to thank you for offering this segue because this is a wrestling podcast. What is your connection to pro wrestling?
My connection started young. I had a tradition with my dad, which we called Chicken Wings and Smackdown, which was when I was a kid. Friday nights, we would order chicken wings from Atomic Wings in New York, and we'd sit down and we'd watch Edge and Rey Mysterio and Batista. One of my first like starstruck memories is I waited in a line for 3 hours at Toys R Us to meet Rey Mysterio. And I prepped the whole way. I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And I walked up to him and he was like, hi. And I went, hi. How are you?
Yeah.
Good. Nothing. Full blackout, just like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Was this the Times Square Toys R Us by any chance? Because I know you're relatively local.
I think so.
With the Ferris wheel and all that.
Yeah.
That was
those
I
are the
miss it
days.
dearly.
There's
Not to plug other people's stuff, but there's a great YouTube show called Defunct Land, which if you've never watched, it's incredible anyway. And they talk about like defunct theme park rides. They do a whole 20-minute episode on the Times Square Toys R Us.
That was like really my wonderful. Heaven was like you would go in,
great.
you didn't have to buy anything. You would just walk around and look at stuff. It was the best.
Yeah,
I remember
giant Superman catching a truck. I wish.
Man, and I remember the huge T-Rex, and I remember they always had a magician doing. Oh my god, man! The memories are flooding in. No reason whatsoever, except buy this kid.
So yeah, I loved WWE, and I was super into it for a while, and then it lost steam for me when like John Cena started disconnecting and Batista left, and like all the people that I really like loved stopped, and so I stopped watching. And then I got really into this small company that went under, of course, called What Culture Pro Wrestling, which was like a group that I really dug. It introduced me to like Joe Hendry and Martin Kirby and like a bunch of the like indie guys. And so that kind of got me back into it. It's where I first saw Orange Cassidy, who like honestly got me back into wrestling. And then AEW started and I was like, okay, a little bit of competition. I like something that's going to bring a little bit more interest. It'll make everybody kind of step their game up, which I feel like everyone really has. And so I got super into AEW. And then I've just kind of followed WWE and AEW as they've kind of continued forward. I was really into Cody Rhodes. I'm hugely into Eddie Kingston. I'm like loving Jon Moxley's run. I think competition is the best thing in the world for pro wrestling. And the fact that we're now getting like 5-star matches weekly is like, great. I'll watch Will Ospreay versus Ricochet on TV. Sure. You want to give me Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega on TV? Great. I love it.
Yep. Everyone wins.
Everyone wins. I have never understood the like, I don't know, like camp warfare of like, you can only like this or you can only like this. I'm like, I like both of them. If someone comes from here to here and they get to make cool stuff, great. Someone comes from here to here and they get to make cool stuff, great.
Yeah,
exactly.
We'll often be critical of some of the things AEW does. However,
and WWE, to be fair,
and WWE, of course.
I just sat out of an episode for a very specific reason that I'm critical.
As I commend you for
taking money from Saudi Arabia. All right, keep going.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that one. I am not a huge crown jewel guy.
Yeah. I'm the outlier here. I apologize. What I was going to say is we are often critical of AEW. However, we praise their PLEs because they are incredible. And like you said, man, it's more work for more wrestlers. How could you not want that? You know?
And they're still very different. what I think is something that doesn't necessarily get talked about enough is that you are not going to see the same product when you watch either show. And that's awesome. That's really exciting. Logan, how familiar are you? Because I think that Ryan and I might age ourselves with the match that I sent over ahead of time. And I use the term match very loosely. How familiar are you with the days of WCW? And I'm going to ask a very sensitive question that you do not have to answer if you don't want to, because I'm bad with timelines sometimes. Did WCW still exist when you were born?
It might have been like just ending. Yeah.
Excellent.
So I know about WCW.
So when I sent you a link that was like, hey, Sting against Vampiro, you were like, clearly this is a joke, because that's not any.
I was like, what? But by the same token, like, kind of the initiation of cinematic matches, getting to hear Tony Schiavone and Sting, which
that's true.
I've gotten to hear in 2023 is like, it's cool to get to see the like translation of like, okay, how did we move over? How do we get to Firefly Funhouse? And it's graveyard match. It's like those first introductions of like, we're not going to do it in the ring. We're going to do it somewhere else. You don't get Firefly Funhouse or Stadium Stampede or anything like that if those people don't take those chances. So like, as silly as it ends up being, it's like, I'm glad that people took those shots and we're like, this might not work, but let's see if we can do a match in a graveyard.
Yep. I want to say it was the 99. There they are. 99 Super Bowl. It might have been 2000 Super Bowl. And WWE tried this for a while. They were like, hey, we know exactly when the halftime for the Super Bowl is going to be. Tune in and you will see a match. You can watch a match instead of watching whatever the halftime show is. And one year they did it in a completely empty stadium that The Rock and Mankind just fought each other through.
Oh, amazing.
And so you're right. It's fun to see those kind of seeds planted. And there's also, and I don't mean this negatively, there are a lot of similarities between WCW and AEW.
Absolutely.
And I think some of that's intentional.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got to see Sting against Vampiro fighting in a graveyard, hitting each other. I tried to be like as on theme with the match as I could be, and it just ended up being a nice little brawl. These guys had kind of a long-standing feud. And no shade against Vampiro. I think he only retired like within the last 5 years.
He has been working nonstop since WCW. It's crazy.
Sting has just had a bigger platform, obviously. But was there anything that you noticed about Sting that felt similar to now as to like what he was doing then, or anything that Sting was doing that maybe reminded you of other stuff?
I think the thing about Sting, and I think it's what I have noticed AEW does a lot with their legends, is that their matches end up being get beat up, big rally, big move, done. And so like watching the Vampiro match, he gets caught in a graveyard, he gets beat up. Oh man, Sting's going to get defeated. Wait, he's alive. He's coming back from the dead. Big move. Hey, it's Sting. The guy can make pretty much anything work. And to like, I think see him then doing that, and then to watch kind of the things he's been able to do now has been super cool. But yeah, like watching a graveyard match where it's like, okay, yeah, he's going to get beat up by a shovel and he gets thrown in the grave. All right. Oh, he got hit with the tombstone. That's cool. And then, he's coming from the rafters. I'm like, yeah, that's classic Sting. The hand coming out. Yeah. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to say there's also, and this is something I think at this point, this was in May of 2000, and they are a year out of going under, maybe less. And I was pretty firmly switched over to WWF at the time at that point. This feels very like them trying to make Sting Undertaker. And there have always been some of those kind of elements, but this is where it felt really blatant. to me in a way that felt kind of uninspired until he comes down from the rafters, until he hits somebody in the knees with a baseball bat in a way that it's always because they always have the bat in video games, even ones that Sting is not in, and it always seemed like to me getting hit with a baseball bat would probably be worse than getting hit with a steel chair.
Yeah.
So I'm genuinely curious if that's a real bat, like what they were using, because he hits him in the knees at one point, and I was like, please take Vampiro to the hospital. I don't think that's
broken after that.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah.
So I would have, if this happened in 2000, I would have been 3.
Okay,
so
all right, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Match happened.
That's not bad. I'll accept that. You're allowed to have been. You're allowed to have been 3.
We'll excuse you for that.
You're
gonna
pass.
Yeah, you were too busy having one-liners in Wait for TV.
I was on set probably during this match.
Yeah. So, then I think though we can have some other interesting questions, because I think a lot of times Ryan and I are in our nostalgia hole talking to people that watched when we were watching.
Yeah.
You were part of the Ruthless Aggression era, and that clearly captured your imagination quite a bit. Did you have a favorite match from that time? And do you remember maybe a favorite rivalry? I feel like a lot of times early wrestling stuff too, you're like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see this person wrestle this person again." What was that like for you?
I think my favorite rivalry was probably Batista and Rey Mysterio. They were my two favorites. Watching Batista turn heel was really like genuinely one of the first times that I was like heartbroken. I was like, how could you betray your friend like this? And this was also during the time, like, I remember the Randy Orton, John Cena endless feud that was just like back and forth and back and forth. And they had fantastic matches, but I did get to a point as a fan where I was like, can I get like something different? Can I get somebody for the title? Which is why I ended up loving SmackDown so much. It was the SmackDown 5. It was Edge, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, Batista. Like watching those guys, Undertaker. I was like, this is where I want to be. I like watching these guys have matches. I got to watch JBL like first start on commentary and be like the uber heel that he was, and like Teddy Long as the general manager.
Playa.
That whole period just got me excited. Every time I heard you're going one-on-one with the Undertaker, I would pop. I was running around my living room being like, he's gonna get destroyed. And my dad was like, you're gonna make the neighbors come upstairs and yell at us. Please calm down. I was like, no, he's going one-on-one with the Undertaker.
You don't understand. This is life for
he's doomed. He'll rest in peace. And then Undertaker's entrance would be twice as long as the match was.
Yeah. Not much has changed that way.
No,
in terms of entrances.
Not much.
Logan, I gotta ask, like, I had a couple friends I watched wrestling with like every week. Did you have other friends who were interested, or how did that go? Yeah.
I was the only one. I was I mean, like, I had friends who like would wrestle each other and be like, oh, we're going to hit the attitude adjustment, which wasn't called the attitude adjustment at the time. And so like, I had friends who would like do wrestling moves, but like, I was the one that was like really into the like week to week, like storytelling and all of that stuff. And so like, there was definitely a feeling of kind of being an individual and being like, not a part of something that a lot of people were into, which I think has continued kind of in my love of wrestling now, is being like, there's so many people who love the classic, well, you know, it's fake, right? And I'm like, okay, but like as an actor, as a performer, it's the greatest fight choreography in the world. Like you will never see fight choreography that cool. And when I was a senior in high school, we were doing a play that had been written for my senior class. And the guy who wrote it was like a huge fight choreography fanatic. And so the two of us, I asked him the first day of rehearsal, I was like, I'm obsessed with fight choreography. Can I please be your fight captain and like help you with this? And we put Superman punches in the show. We put brogue kicks in. We were like doing super kicks. And I was like, I'm literally getting to take the stuff that I love from wrestling and put it on stage as fight choreography. This is incredible.
What was the play about?
It was called Baguettes, Fall of a High
Okay.
School Ronin. And it's about a girl who fights her way through the popular kids at her high school in order to stand up for the kids who have been bullied. It's one of the craziest shows I've ever been a part of. Queen Yagin wrote it, and he's absolutely amazing. He also wrote She Kills Monsters. He wrote Living Dead in Denmark. He's
Very cool.
An awesome writer. But it was just like this show that got written, and because I am a small person, I got written as the guy that got beat up all the time. And so I was like, can I help you choreograph the other stuff? Because that's way more cool to me, is like being able to do 25-step fights on stage and like make those look really exciting. So yeah.
That's cool. I remember I was in like a community theater production. This is how community theater it was, Logan. I was a Puerto Rican in West Side Story. That's how community theater this was.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember during the Rumble
Ryan, you got any
scene-
pictures? Are there any pictures?
There are. I'll post them right here.
Oh, okay.
Right
all right. Well,
now.
that's exciting. Look, that's exciting then. If there are pictures that you are willing to share, it means you guys at least did an okay job avoiding something.
They're out there. I don't know. I might get canceled after you see
Well,
them,
let's just see. I think if you had to have any, I don't know, extensive makeup, we'll call it, then maybe don't post them.
Okay, I'm not going to post them then. The point of me bringing this up, Logan, is I'd like to thank the talent company in Syracuse, New York for that. Yes,
Syracuse.
I'm calling them out. I'm calling them out right now. Anyways, Logan, the reason I bring this up, we did the Rumble scene in West Side Story, and we did like the original choreography, like the original from the first Broadway production. But for the Rumble, they were like, all right, kind of just feel it out, which is the worst thing you could say to like 20 dudes. Feel it, just fight.
Feel out this fight.
Yeah. Just give it a try. And of course, like everyone was kind of like doing little and I'm in the corner like doing the people's elbow. I think I did a choke slam at one point. I climbed to the top we had a real fence for the show, and I climbed to the top, and I'm not kidding you, I was going to do like a frog splash off of the top, and I remember the choreographer coming up to me and being like, Ryan, are you aware that I used to be an independent wrestler? And I was like, what?
No.
And I was like, no. And he's like, don't think I don't know what you're doing right now. That was the people's elbow. He's like, that was the Undertaker's choke slam. And I was like, dude, it was anyways, I've never shared that story before, so I'm glad.
That's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
You will not see the photos, however. I'm sorry. Screw it. I'll put them up.
Oh, please don't. Please don't do
that. Anyways, I apologize for that interruption.
No,
awesome. No, please don't.
I am truly such a proponent of like being able to combine those worlds. It's why like I'm such a huge fan of John Cena and Batista now that they've made their cross into the acting world, and like seeing two people who like I thought were incredible in the ring and on the mic, and then have genuinely found like respect for performing and for acting, and who have a like appreciation for the actual art form and like what it can be, to people who are willing to like not look great and who are willing to lose in movies and like get beat up. It's like, it's really awesome for me to see these guys who I really respected when I was young now step into an arena that I respect them in even more, where I'm like, you guys are great. Like I remember when Hotel Artemis came out and Batista was in it playing this like quiet orderly, I was like, oh man, like he's actually acting. He's not just like, I'm Batista and I'm doing Batista. I was like, no, this guy could actually like do it. And then Blade Runner comes out and I'm like, I'm genuinely have respect for this guy and the awareness and just like respect he has for the craft. It's been so cool to see.
Yeah. I don't know if you said he even lost a bunch of weight recently, like a lot of muscle. So he can play different roles and not look so big. I think he said that Knock at the Cabin He put on a little too much like muscle weight. They needed him to, but he's like, I just didn't feel comfortable, and it's awesome. I also appreciate your foresight because I was not a big Batista fan when I was younger, wrestling wise, and now I can of all the wrestlers turned actors, he's absolutely my favorite, and that's not a knock at John Cena too. I think John Cena's come a long way and is trying really hard, and kind of had to. What's so interesting, and I think it speaks to what you're saying about being willing to like not look good. I think Batista was lucky with Drax, which was supposed to be Jason Momoa first, and Momoa dropped out at the last second and went and did Aquaman instead,
which is just like insane to think about.
Well, look, I yes, but then in that same vein, you go like, hey, do you want to be one of several actors in an ensemble movie, or do you want to lead a movie?
Right.
But with and it was also Batista's character with Drax is, not very smart. Like it's an unflattering role.
Right.
And I think right from there, he kind of lucked out in that, like, oh, you can kind of put him in. He'd sent this message that he was willing to do other things, that he's willing to, that he has a Hotel Artemis in him, that he has a Blade Runner 2049. Like there is this humility. And I think even though Cena started, because I want to say the first thing he was in was Trainwreck.
Yeah.
That wasn't like a WWE movie. That wasn't like
that wasn't The Marine.
Exactly. And Trainwreck, but I think Cena had to kind of dig himself out of this hole a little bit. But I still like him.
I mean, like Peacemaker, like he's still doing
he's really incredible in Peacemaker.
I'm a really strong, really great dude, and he's super funny, so it works.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I do have yet to see John Cena do a part where I'm like, you're gonna make me cry.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely like some insecurity to him in Peacemaker, but the character still kind of sucks. So it's hard to like, I don't ever find myself liking Peacemaker necessarily.
Right.
But you feel for him. And that's just as hard of a task sometimes.
Exactly.
I was going to bring up something, Andrew, if you don't mind, with Logan. You did bring up sort of the almost the birth of like the cinematic match and whatnot. And we see that so much. We saw it with Bray Wyatt. And now since Raw is going to Netflix, like the cinematography of WWE is just the quality is just getting better and better. And I'd love to know your thoughts on that, like where we're at right now, where like we're following the wrestler literally from backstage to their entrance and out. Like we're getting a peek behind the curtain like never before, but it's also giving us this new level of like drama and cinematography. So, having watched back in the Ruthless Aggression era and watching now, like, what do you make of where the WWE is with all that? And where do you think it's going to,
it's so cool. I think there's a real like spot for the cinematic match. I think the world we're in now where we're getting like more cinematic entrances and more like interesting angles, and like we're following people backstage and we're kind of blurring that kayfabe line where it's like, oh, you're seeing them. Like I remember the other week something happened where it was like Kevin Owens and like I can't remember if it was Cody Rhodes or somebody else, but they got into an argument in the parking lot and there were no cameras. That it was oh, we're just relying on fans like pulling their phones out and recording this. And I think that's so cool. I think to get into that place where it's like we can really get back into like, okay, what is real, what is not. I think with the like, especially like Talk is Jericho, I think we end up with like a lot of the like, let's talk about all the behind the scenes, which I love. But I think we really did lose that like what is real and what is not. Like who actually is fighting and who is like getting along. Like I think it's a lot harder to do a CM Punk pipe bomb now because just like audiences are so like, that was scripted. Someone wrote that for him. That's not real. He's not actually leaving the company. I don't believe it. And so I think to expand the kind of cinematic vibe to be able to get more into like, I think everything that Bray Wyatt did is some of the most incredible storytelling that I've ever seen. I think he was an absolute genius. I think him and then Brody Lee when he was in AEW.
Oh yeah. Ugh.
It's heartbreaking. They were two of my favorite performers of all time.
Oh
And
man, I forgot that it was. I forgot that
Yeah.
it was that both of them have passed. That's really awful. Sorry,
Yeah.
keep going. Sorry, that's just like
no. It's just like that was the thing that got me back into wrestling. Was like I saw a Bray Wyatt video and I was like, this guy is incredible. And then Brody Lee starts doing stuff with the Dark Order, and I was like, you're making the jobbers interesting. Like, this is so cool. This is fascinating. Like, I think it's only going to make the product more interesting. I think the move to Netflix just gets me so excited because there's so much that you can't do on network. Like, there's so much that you have to cut short or that you have to kind of pull back on. And I think whereas back in Ruthless Aggression, that kind of stuff was sex, I think because the audience has drifted so far away from being interested in that. I know there's still a subsect of wrestling fans that are like, give us more sex. But I think a lot of wrestling fans now are like, no, I want like a fight. I want I want interesting promos. I want people to say things that I don't know if they were supposed to say that. Like, I think back to The Miz and when he was Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack, screaming at each other and people being like, is this?
Yep.
Are they yelling at each other? Was this planned?
Right.
Do they actually hate each other? And I think that just breeds the most interesting stories, is when you're like, okay, I'm really into this as a story, and I don't know if these guys genuinely hate each other or not. Like, I don't know if it is a story or if this is these guys went to the boss and were like, we just need to fight. We need to fight because we don't like each other and we know we can do really good in the ring together. It's why I fell in love with Eddie Kingston when he came to AEW, was because I was like, I don't know if this guy genuinely hates these people or is just playing a character. And every time I was like, no, I think he actually hates them. I think him and CM Punk genuinely hate each other. And that's cool. If you guys can work together and make some incredible match, then like, props to you. Let's do it.
Yep. I feel like Kingston and CM Punk himself, Andrew knows this. I bring it up almost every episode now. I hated CM Punk for the longest time, ever since that press conference he had with Tony Khan, up to the locker room incident. But I have become like the biggest CM Punk mark ever now because he is so damn good. Him and Drew McIntyre of blurring those lines, and you just don't know what's real and what isn't. And I think social media, like you mentioned, plays such a big role now with these characters, quote unquote. They're able to do promos right over their Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. They don't get camera time maybe one Monday night, but they're like, you know what? I'm going to go to my 2 million followers across social media and cut a promo there. Like, try stuff.
Champion Matt Cardona. I mean, like, you don't get the Deathmatch King Matt Cardona without the ability to just jump on Twitter and be like, I'm going to talk to fans and say that I deserve a shot at this.
And knowing about who can take advantage of that. One of my favorite things to come out of CM Punk's time at AEW was a very impassioned speech he gave in the defense of the trans community post an episode that was, I think, was strictly shared on social media. That might have wound up on cameras, but I believe it was after the show. So it's like, there's a lot of, we get to like know who they are as people. Sometimes that's not great. You see Liv Morgan bragging about buying a Cybertruck. Like, there's that kind of stuff. But like, you know, there's Undertaker having certain questionable people on his podcast. That's, you know, that could be Glenn Jacobs or anybody else that he brought on. Like, there's just, it's the good and the bad, but I do kind of like that messiness of it as well. Because I do think that no matter what, all of that is going to get carried into and feed the product. And there will be a certain point where that stuff will start to bleed over more, I think, in an interesting way.
I'm also just like, I'm such a person that like, if I like you as a performer and then I find out 3 years later that you're actually a terrible person, that's going to break my heart. So like, tell me now. Tell me as I'm getting into you that you suck, so that then I can be like, okay, like, I think you're a good wrestler, but I don't like you, so I can root against you. Versus oh man, this guy that I cheered for 10 years is actually like really shitty and has these views about people like me that are really not great. Like as a queer person watching wrestling, especially, I'm like, okay, cool. So like, I've really got to pick and choose who I'm supporting and who I'm not. And it's hey, tell me straight out of the gate how you feel about me, so I know whether or not I should support you or not.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, my favorite was, being the key word, favorite wrestler of all time was Chris Benoit. And it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's such a struggle to like be like, wow, this guy was like my hero.
Right.
And to now know for very good reasons that he's been completely erased from history.
Yeah.
Again, for all the right reasons. And it's hard because there's a part of me that always wants to go back and watch those matches, or watch when he won the championship and Eddie Guerrero hugs him. It's like one of the most emotional, powerfully driven moments of WWE history. Yet it's so tainted by what is to come, unfortunately. So, man, it's so hard. It's hard.
It's also I don't know, like Benoit did an awful thing, no questions, like an horrible, inhuman thing. But he also had the brain of an Alzheimer's patient by the time, like when they did his autopsy. Like that is one of those. I think few people represent the darkness that wrestling could be as well as Chris Benoit in a very like weird, complicated way. And it's one of those tough things where I agree he should be taken out of the conversation, but what happened to him should not, if that makes sense. Like what's kind of tough is that the WWE can be like, we're not going to talk about him at all anymore. And then it's like, okay, but how did he get to the point where he committed such a horrific act? And why don't you guys want to talk about
getting that many concussions and like how do you protect your workers?
And to be fair, they shifted a lot of things after that, but it seemed more of like we have to make sure we got to find the guy who did this, like that kind of stuff. Like it's that. So
you are the guy
holding the axe, being like, man, if only we knew. Guys. Have some awareness.
So, Logan, you are in a new movie called All You Need Is Blood. Which I was so grateful to watch the other day. I bought it on the old Google Play, so I can watch it on my YouTube whenever I want. Quick setup for the folks at home. It's about a young gentleman named Bucky who just wants to make movies. He's a filmmaker. And it's set a year after Logan was born, which I just connected in my head. But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Move on.
That makes things easier because then you don't have cell phones. But it's he wants to make movies. Strange Rock turns a member of his family into a zombie. I won't say which one, and he decides to capitalize on that opportunity and use that realism to make a movie. It's just as fun of a setup as it sounds. It's gnarly. It's fun. I laughed so much. There's some incredible practical effects in it. Logan, because I don't want to spoil things too much for people, because I do think that they should watch the movie. But what I will say is there is a scene where you get absolutely drenched in blood on your face. You're sitting against a door. Oh, what was it like working? And we're at a time now where a lot of like squibs, a lot of that stuff are going away, in favor of CG blood. A lot of that is for like money reasons, and a lot of that is just like, what was it like sitting there? What was that process like getting sprayed at? And more importantly, how many takes?
The thing that I want to say first and foremost is that we used no CG blood. The whole
you did not a drop.
Practical.
Not a drop. Oh, that is very evident.
It was awesome. That particular scene that you're talking about, we did once. It was
wow.
It was like, we have enough in this. It was literally like a cannon, like being pointed at my face, and they were like, we have one shot at this because we can't clean you up and like set this back up again. So like, we got to get it in one. And like, for me, working practically has always been something incredible. Like, I felt the same way on Stranger Things, being able to like look at a guy in a suit, being able to like genuinely experience looking at actors and like experiencing stuff like that. Doing that on All You Need Is Blood was just incredible. It was like, it was a dream come true for like a horror and action fan to be able to be like, oh, you're just going to drench me in blood and we're going to go at it. Sweet. Like, there's going to be a cannon and it's going to point at my face and fire blood at me, and I've got to just try and get my whole face drenched. Sure, why not? Let's do it. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was, it's my dream as a performer is like, I love horror. I love like the practicality of being able to like really be invested in it. I'm such a like, I need tangible, like whenever I've seen those situations where it's like, oh, we're standing and everything around us is green and we're all in green suits. I'm like, I can't, that would be so difficult for me. I like the practicality of like, I have another actor in front of me. I have these effects that I'm working with that I can genuinely feel. It's easy to be grossed out by being drenched in blood when you have a cannon firing blood at your face.
Right.
Like, no, this is gross. That's a lot of blood.
It's like Evil Dead, man. I love it.
Yes.
I also like, it's a very talented cast. It is a very well-made movie. There's like there's great filmmaking in it. It looks great. It sounds great. Like it's just everything. Everybody brings their A game to it. But you're in almost every single scene. What was it like doing that kind of work for like this? This is your first really big leading role. That's awesome and important. How hard was it? And be honest. And how friggin' good did it feel?
Genuinely, it was really difficult.
Sure.
I'm used to, you have one scene on Tuesday and then your next scene is next Monday. So like the prep time and the turnaround time was really like a thing that I had to get used to, and like the energy that you kind of have to keep going. I think the biggest thing for me that actually ended up making the whole process a lot easier was because I've worked with so many actors where you show up and the person that's number one on the call sheet is like not necessarily the most excited to be there, or like maybe is a little bit of a diva, or maybe is a little like, I'm going to be off by myself doing my own thing. And so I went into that process being like, I want everyone to know how much I appreciate them. I want everyone to know that I don't think I'm above any of them, that I genuinely like everybody. And so I made sure that at the end of every single day, I walked up to every single person on the crew and I thanked them and I told them that they were doing a great job. And that was just like it was a part of it for me. That was a part of the job, was like, I am the face of this group. And if everybody likes me, which I started to realize like when I did that 3 or 4 days and continued doing it, the crew was then like, we really like you. Like, we think you're great. Awesome. We're going to do whatever you need in order to make sure that this goes well. And so it made them step up and like, not that they weren't doing a great job already, rise to the occasion of like, we want to do this well because we like you and we like showing up for you, and the director's great and you're great. And so like, we're all here to really rally around you, and to be able to create that environment that I've always loved in filmmaking, to be able to be the guy that sets that tone, was just such an exciting thing. And it made all the work that I had to do a lot easier, because then it's like, okay, well, I don't have to worry about anything happening around me because I know everyone else has things under control. I just have to kind of do my thing and go from there. And I felt like there was so much faith put in me as Bucky, and so much just like, you know, the character, do what you think is best, that it was really easy to just, once I memorized my lines, be ready to roll and be ready to make the thing happen. It was really cool.
Nice.
I love that. That makes me very happy. I'm not surprised to hear that at all, but it warms my heart to know that. And it's very awesome. And as somebody who has worked on several sets with you now, it shines through. So well done.
I mean, and I know you know this, Andrew, and you're similar, but like, I haven't gotten to work with you, Ryan, so I don't know if you're like this. I hope you are.
Ryan's the diva you were talking about. I mean, I assume the diva you were talking about was Gaten Matarazzo, but Ryan, no, that's a joke.
I love Gaten. I would never say anything bad about the cast of Stranger Things. Netflix, please don't come after me.
Yeah, right.
No, we respect fellow New York Rangers fans on this podcast.
Yes, we do.
He goes all the
time.
We
respect people who came from the theater.
Correct. Yeah.
We're just the ease that comes when you're working on a set where everyone wants to be there, where like everyone is just excited and everyone's passionate and everyone just like is ready to go, is like, those are the sets that I like being on and that remind me like, oh yeah, acting is fun. Like I've been on sets where I've been screamed at by directors. I've been on sets where the other actor is like being a diva and doesn't want to run lines. And it's like, we're being paid to dress up and play pretend. It's not this crazy thing.
Dream job.
Can we have some fun? Like, can we enjoy each other and each other's company? Can we like make jokes together? Like, I understand when it's time to work, it's time to work. I'm like,
right.
Andrew put me in a movie where there were times that I had to be like, cool, I got to disconnect for a minute and like put my headphones on and like find this emotional place. But like, it's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to enjoy it. It's not supposed to be ripping our hair out. It's not supposed to be a power hungry thing. And so to be able to be on sets where like everyone's having a good time and likes being there and is nice to each other is just like such a gift that I embrace it every moment that I can.
Excellent.
Nice.
Rad. Well,
so do you
go ahead.
I was going to ask, Logan, do you have like I've seen you in Stranger Things. I will be watching the movie tonight as well. I just got off a plane.
Goodness.
I was in Canada.
Ryan's been chasing ghosts in Canada. That is not a joke.
I have. I literally
kind of awesome. That's very awesome.
It's pretty great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have not been able to watch it. I will watch it tonight, and I do want to apologize. There's fireworks going on outside my window.
I can't
wouldn't have known that, and I would have known that until you said. Is there a sky? Are they?
Guy Fawkes Day, November 5th of November today.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a
Scotland
weird day to set off fireworks.
Scotland really hates royalty, so
never mind.
Like the Royals. They must love V for Vendetta there.
Oh my God, man. Everywhere. It's like Anonymous is here 24/7 or something. Anyways, I will be watching your movie tonight. But I did want to ask, like, I've really only seen things that you've done in the horror genre. Do you have like a preferred genre, or are you kind of all over drama, comedy, horror?
A lot of times it depends on the mood. Horror has been a real passion of mine just because when I got introduced to it, I discovered so quickly the depth of story that you can get to with horror without letting people know. Like, All You Need Is Blood, without spoiling too much, goes into a lot of like grief and like how people kind of process their own mortality. And
a lot about family, a lot of really good
and a
stuff
lot about like family and love and like how you relate to people when family situations change. And so I love the horror genre because it has that depth that you can go to without like directly letting an audience know. You can make a movie like The Babadook and be like, it's a scary movie, but actually it's about trauma, but it's a scary movie. Sure. And that's like incredibly exciting to me. I think comedy is super fun, but like, honestly, at the end of the day, it's going to sound so cliche. I just like being an actor. I just like, if you give me a script where I'm so in a place right now where I'm like, and maybe it's just because I've done like comedy and horror a little bit and I've been in kind of smaller parts, but like I'm hungry for that part where I get to go toe to toe with somebody, where I get to do the like, no, put me in a scene where someone forces me to rise to a level so I can show that I can do that. That's where like my heart is right now, is like, I want to do something that shows how far I can go as an actor. But at the end of the day, if a script is interesting and a character is fun and the people working on it are good, I'm in. Like, I'll take anything that's given to me and run with it as long as it's not problematic or makes me feel like weirdly uncomfortable. I'm pretty excited for anything.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, Logan, I have to go wake up my kids. So we got to end here.
Sense.
But what else have you? What's going on? What's in the docket? What would you like to plug? Socials, any of that stuff? Throw it out there.
All You Need Is Blood is out. It's very exciting. We're getting a DVD release in December, which has
cool
from me and the director, which I'm very excited
that's
about.
Awesome.
Sweet.
And then I'm not gonna say too much because it's still up in the air. But I may or may not be directing my first feature next year.
Hey, okay.
Which is on a script that I wrote. So hopefully that's happening. We're like there's conversations that I've been in the last like 2 weeks that have been really
There you
exciting.
go.
So
Good.
we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, that's really where I'm at. I'm like every other actor right now. I'm just auditioning. I'm waiting for the next thing, which I think a lot of people can sometimes lose sight of, is like people will be like, oh, but you were in Stranger Things and All You Need Is Blood. And I'm like, yeah. And that was the last thing that I did.
Yep.
And that was in 2022. There's a reason that I made my own shorts and worked with Andrew. And it was like, I just wanted to act. I wanted to do more. And like having the opportunity to work with people. I feel like people hesitate, and me and Andrew had this conversation, to like ask me to do acting stuff because they're like, I don't know if he's going to feel weird, if he's going to say yes, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm free. Let's do it. And with Andrew, it really helped that the script was super fun and that he was really excited and had wrote it for me. So I was like, absolutely. You're great. And I get to work on a cool movie. Let's do it.
I love it. I love it. Yes.
Ryan, what you got going on?
All right. Well, I just wrapped season 13 of Haunted. Season 11, it just premiered on Eastlink in Canada. So if you're Canadian, you can watch it. If you live anywhere else in the world, you cannot. No, I'm just kidding. You can watch it on YouTube. Seasons 1 through 4 are now available on YouTube on the Eastlink YouTube channel. I just got the call yesterday. I will be on the upcoming season of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. So yes,
this is your like third or fourth time now?
This will be my 4th season with them.
Nice.
I was happy to get the call. So yes, I'll be traveling to London soon to film for that. But their new season just premiered as well, which I'm in a couple episodes. So if you like, I love the whole joke of like, History Channel is like Nazis in World War II during the day and just aliens and pyramids, alien parties at night. Yeah, that's me. I am part of that alien party at night. So you can catch me there. Otherwise, I do my UFO podcast every week, Somewhere in the Skies. So you can find that wherever you get Somewhere in the Ring. That's it for me, Andrew. How about you, buddy?
Excellent. Look, go to Somewhere in the or patreon.com/Somewhere in the Ring. Type in Somewhere in the Ring on your socials. As always, you can watch my short horror film, Pay the Tithe, on Vimeo, or the linked in here. Next Friday, if you're in the New York City area, that would be Friday, November 15th. I will be doing another Drunk Texts show. This is just one that I'm performing in. I did not write this one, but I'm still very excited. Written by Robert Price. Meaneth Girls next week. So yeah, there's stuff coming down the pipe. Yeah, very fetch.
We're not making fetch happen.
sorry.
So yeah, there's stuff. Listen to the show. Keep checking us out. Thank you as always. And Logan, at the end of the show, we like to have our guests ring the bell to send us out. So whatever that means to you, please ring the bell and send us home.
I'll do a classic. Ding, ding, ding.
Excellent.
Amazing. As classic as it gets. Yeah. Classic Logan. Let me tell you.
Classic me, you know.
This has been Somewhere in the Ring. Thank you for listening. Subscribe wherever you get your pods, and be sure to rate and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever possible. We'll see you again soon, Somewhere in the Ring.
This has been a production of LIONSGATE Sound. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever possible. Thank you for listening.